You turn my mourning into dancing. You turn my mourning into dancing. Your love changes everything. There's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my mourning into dancing. 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 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. You turn my mourning into dancing. You turn my mourning into dancing. You turn my mourning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my mourning into dancing. You turn my mourning into dancing.
morning, Rooted Men. Pleasure to see you this morning. Matt Ryan, Firmly Rooted Ministries. Love to be with you on a Friday morning, summer morning, start of U.S. Open weekend, also known as Father's Day weekend, I guess, for some people. But for me, it's U.S. Open weekend. I hope that whatever this weekend brings you, you have a chance to celebrate the men and the fathers in your life, or if you're a father, that you get some time to feel appreciated and relax, and that we all would take the opportunity and have the opportunity to reflect on our Father and what he's meant to us to help us understand our earthly fathers and to help us understand who we're called to be as earthly fathers. That this would be an opportunity to reflect not only on the gifts you've been given, but the gifts you can give, whether you're a father or just a man in the community who can serve other people, taking the cue from our Father of how we're supposed to act as men. There's some powerful stuff in there. We don't have 9 or 10 hours for a study on that, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. But let it be said, I hope you have some good things in store this weekend. You're going to have a chance to enjoy some of the summer weather that's on its way as we get some hot days, we barbecue, we get on the lake, whatever it is that you like to do. Hope some of that's in store for you. So we're still reading through James, which is one of those books that a lot of people struggle with. But what I love about James is that there's no BS with him. He cuts right to the point, very clear about what he's calling us to do. So let's dig in here. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Pretty powerful stuff in there. Much like our study through Proverbs, this idea of wisdom keeps coming up. Now you all understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? The difference between being smart or sharp and being wise, of course. You can be both, or you can certainly be one and clearly not one of the other. Strong in one area. You can be very smart but not wise. Yeah, I suppose you could also be very wise but not very smart, right? Smart being a collection of knowledge or ways to interact with the world, and wisdom being really, in the end, an understanding of how God views each situation and aligning your heart and submitting to him. So what does this mean for us, right? It's easy to kind of say, oh, well, I do my best to live wise. I don't boast. I don't, deny the truth, right? It's easy to kind of read these things, but let's slow down and kind of think about, what we're really getting at here, right? Because we're questioning the concept of who is wise and understanding, but by exploring what is wise and understanding, right? James gives us his quick and assertive answers that the truly wise and understanding person is one whose faith in God leads to selfless good works, right? The proof is in the pudding here. It's your actions speak louder than words. Your selfless good works will demonstrate that you are the truly wise person, right? Wise people live in the humility of wisdom, setting themselves aside to serve others. A couple of online things I'm just kind of throwing out here that I found. Different from worldly wisdom, right? The kind of the two kingdoms ideas. In the world, wisdom tells us each person's responsible to serve him or herself first, serve their family first, right? And certainly there is room for that, right? There's biblical space to say I'm supposed to serve my family first, right? For one who doesn't serve their family is worse than an unbeliever. Something like that. Sorry, I'm terrible at quoting Bible verses off the top of my head. Usually when I plan on using them, I'll look them up, but I don't remember. But, there's a difference, right? Serving for selfish purposes, serving for gain of earthly wealth or earthly possessions or whatever it is, right? All of our attitudes in the earthly kingdom are driven by envy, right? We love what you have. We want to take it. We want to have it. We want to conquer more. We want to gain more. We just can't get enough of celebrities. We can't get enough of athletes and sports stars, right? I just saw that Trevor Lawrence signed, he's a quarterback for the Jaguars, if you don't know. He signed a $275 million contract. I think that number's right. And $142 million of it was a guaranteed signing bonus. So he just got a check for $142 million yesterday. And so many people receive that news and just start dreaming, oh, what I would do with that. Why isn't that for me? Why couldn't I just get part of that? There's so much I could make happen, right? All these kind of thoughts that enter in because that's what we think about, right? It must be so amazing to be that rich. Well, we don't know anything about. There's no wisdom applied there, right? That's this idea that we have envy for what they have, and we want to figure out a way for us to get it, right? The result of that kind of thinking, of course, is disorder and evil instead of the peace and gentleness and mercy that follow from living in heaven's wisdom. So wisdom, why does it matter so much, right? I think about it in terms of inputs, right? We need to be discerning of what's even coming into our minds, into our hearts in the first place, and then be discerning about those items that we let in, right? This psychologist that I follow, who's just one of the most brilliant people I've ever come across, who's able to take super advanced neuroscience and psychology that he's studied and apply it through a biblical lens. Talks a lot about we have control over our circle, right? It's one of the things that we can control. I get to give you permission or refuse to give you permission to be able to speak into my life based on where you go in my circle, right? My wife, there's an example. Someone who's in my inner circle, someone who can speak life or death over me, right? Someone who can hold me accountable because I trust her and I value her. And so she would be one of those people that I've given permission to hurt me, right? And then there's other people who don't have that permission, right? That might be someone from high school who was a bully who you still see on Facebook or whatever. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about who's even allowed to influence you. And that's where it starts. We've really got to be careful first with who gets to get in my circle. And in today's digital age, where we're so overly connected, we have everything at our fingertips, so much more of our life becomes a lonely, right? A solo, me interacting with some website or some news channel or some blogger or some podcast or whatever, where it's just me interacting with them. Well, again, brothers, you've got to guard your heart and be careful about what inputs are even coming in, right? Stop and think about and really weigh out the value of things, right? Is this person or this podcast or this newscast, whatever it is, adding value to my life? And remember that every single newscast there is, every podcast there is, every newspaper that's online has one goal. We used to believe 50 years ago that one goal was a relentless pursuit of the truth. That goal now, as I think many of you probably know where I'm going with this, is to sell advertisements. What sells, right? The classic line in news is, if it bleeds, it leads. Everything is sensationalized. Whether you're watching something because it's your side of the political aisle or because it's someone you relate to and you like and you trust, every single thing you see is about selling commercials to you. It's about selling products to you, right? So again, we've got to be careful about what comes in, right? Be careful and be wise about what's coming in and how you watch it and how you let it affect you, right? Because that earthly, unspiritual, demonic stuff that we see all over, that it's poisonous, that we're so inundated with, we almost can't avoid it. I'm calling you, and I think James is calling you here, to be wise by blocking some stuff out in the first place. And then what you do let in, being discerning about it. How should I take this? And it sounds hard and it sounds academic and it sounds like, gosh, am I really going to take every single thought captive? Am I really going to, challenge everything I hear? Matt, you take all the fun out of life, right? And I just want to say what's on the other side of it is so much richer, right? That wisdom where we're away from the envy and away from the selfish ambition. And now suddenly, we're down here. We're pure, peace loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy, good fruit, impartial, sincere, living in so much more peace, right? That peacemaker that reaps a harvest of righteousness. I'm telling you, the reward is great. We have to have a lot of defense against the inputs we have in this world. Are they wise? And is my wisdom taking it and applying it through a biblical lens to say, okay, does this really affect me? And how does it really affect me? And what you notice is that in verse 17, the listing of the traits, the attributes that come from wisdom sound very much like the fruits of the Spirit, right? Considerate, submissive, full of mercy, good fruit, impartial. It's almost like those were two thoughts that stemmed from the same tree, right? And of course, the fruits of the Spirit are something we yearn for, something we long for, something we want to be producing naturally coming out of us. I think this same stuff is going on here. And I think that's what James wants you to hear in these verses. Wisdom, right? Take an active role in what's coming into your mind. Take every thought captive, right? Be rooted in the word. The same idea with the talk about armoring up, right? Defend against the crap that's coming into you. Try to purify it by finding sources that aren't going to get you riled up, aren't going to cause anger, aren't going to cause envy, all these things that are earthly, right? It's a discussion I would like to continue with you. I'd like to hear what things you're listening to and what podcasts you might listen to, because I listen to a bunch of podcasts. I have an attention problem, and I have to always have something in my ear in order to focus on whatever I'm doing. So I listen. There's a bunch of podcasts I listen to, and I've tried really hard to clean them up. I still have a couple guilty pleasures that I listen to, but I've tried really hard to make the rest of my day be productive, thought-provoking, deep, whatever it is. And I would challenge you to do the same. I'd love to have that conversation with you, man. But now's not the time, as I'm running pretty long here, almost at 13 minutes. So I'll let you get on with your day. Be blessed. Let's make it a firmly rooted day. And may someone see Jesus in us today. Peace.